Legion Racing is racing groups that we put together. Typically, they consist of 4 or 5 horses in each group. The idea of that is, you hope that 2 or 3 of them become something special. Anna Marie actually started in one of our racing groups last year before the Ribbles purchased him outright from the group. So he was a graduate of that. Drexel Hill is obviously one that was in a group this year. That same group owns Holly Grove, which is another stakes-winning filly. But we try to buy these horses at a price point where people can afford to get in. We're not the micro share model with My Racehorse, and we're probably not. We're somewhere in between, the Eclipse and West Points. Smaller group size, smaller horse size, but
kind of maybe like Starlight, but maybe not with their budget yet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to say it. We got guys that buy in at 5%. We got guys that buy half of the whole group. So yeah, that's we've kind of tried to keep it a more boutique group. Most of our owners have been referrals from other owners. But they've performed obviously really well. Here we are. We had Derby horse last year. Now we're in the Oaks. So yeah, it's been great.
And so you all own Drexel Hill.
We do. We own Drexel Hill through the racing group. Interestingly enough, some of the people that are involved in it, they're members of our other groups, but the Ribbles that we just mentioned with Anna Marie, they also own a part of Drexel Hill. Just got this group, it's an entirety. They're all just racing fanatics. They're fantastic. One of the guys we were talking about a minute ago, Ed Stefanski, he's actually, he played for the Boston Celtics. I believe, don't quote me on this, I think he was the athletic director at the University of Penn, which is where the hat design and the name came from with Drexel Hill. But he's real involved in the NBA program. I think he's with the Detroit Pistons now. But yeah, just a really good group of people.
And you bought Flying Mohawk for Jayson Werth.
We did, yeah. We bought the horse, and the horse was down at Glendune Farm down in Ocala, and we were telling Jayson, and some other people that that this horse seems special, and obviously he's got a grass pedigree, but he got in with Sean Coletta and Jeff Barry, and it's just been unbelievable ever since.
And Jeff Barry is the assistant to the president of the San Francisco Giants?
He is, yeah. So he's one of the biggest agents in baseball. And he just recently retired and then immediately started back working again. I believe he was Buster Posey's agent, who's the president of the Giants. And Buster had asked him to come back on board and help him out. And he's fantastic. He's a Kentucky guy. He's from Owensboro. Oddly enough, his first cousin lives 2 houses down from me, which we didn't know until after he came on as a client. But this whole group, the 3 of these guys, Jayson, and Jeff and Sean, they are what we need in this sport right now. They are they're out there pumping it up. Jason's got the podcast going. He's obviously got Icon Racing going. We bought a bunch of horses for those guys here with Whit, but you couldn't put a better group together if you're going to have a horse in the Derby.
How did you hook up with Jayson?
Christian Vellante, is one of the partners in Legion. I actually struck up a conversation with him while we were down in Ocala for a horse sale at the World Equestrian Center, and Christian's a big Philly guy. Jayson obviously played for the Phillies and won a World Series there. Just got talking, and next thing you know, we're looking at horses for him.
You all are a young operation, and how many years are we talking?
3 years, yeah.
And you've had 2 Derby horses.
Yeah, it's crazy, and an Oaks horse now. We talk about it all the time. I don't think anybody would have ever expected the year after getting Anna Marie in that here we are with an Oaks and a Derby horse, and it all comes back to the owners. I mean, we've got owners that believe in us, and they allow us they trust us to go buy the type horses that we look at. We look for physicals and athletes first, and then pedigree second. And it's worked out well for our racing groups. It's worked out well for our individual clients.
And interesting, Whit this time around is in the barn. That when you were an assistant trainer many years ago for Pat Vernon, you were around some very top horses and champions. No Derby horses.
Yeah, well, we had Take Charge Indy in the Derby. That was the one Derby horse we had in the barn.
Right.
Yep. He did. He did. Yeah. No, we joke about it. I was in this barn for 10 years. That's where I learned to hot walk, actually. So it's crazy to come back full circle, and the offices and everything, and it's just awesome. But Whit's, he's just done such an unbelievable job with these horses, and the 2-year-olds that we've got coming to him. I think we've got about 30. They're just rock stars too, and I think this is really just the beginning for Whit, truthfully.
Yeah, his stable, since it's only been about a year ago. I'm trying to think, maybe a year and a half since he won his first stakes, a restricted stakes in Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, it's unreal.
People have discovered him.
Oh, it's unreal. Like, you got to look at, if you are looking at trainer pedigree, Whit's worked for some of the best guys out there. Todd, Chad. He worked for Owen Hardy too, and did a stint over there in the Middle East. But yeah, that's the best part. Like we get the horses and we send them to Whit, and Whit just he makes the plans for them. We don't get in his way, and it's worked out really well so far.